Imagine, Meghan Markle's most devoted fan, a woman who spent years risking her reputation to defend the Duchess against the world, suddenly unfollowing her live on a podcast. Not just a breakup, a public execution filled with rage and betrayal that rocked Hollywood and royal circles alike. Stacey Schroeder, a reality TV star, has gone from ride-or-die supporter to toxic hater, and her revelations expose a scheme that reportedly sent Meghan into a meltdown. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. What if I told you Meghan ignored her superfan for months, leaving her waiting by the door like a fool, while PR gifts flew to her harshest critics? Meghan Markle's superfan, Stacey Schroeder, a reality TV personality and devoted supporter of the Duchess, has publicly torched her, reportedly sending Markle into a tailspin. In a viral podcast moment, Schroeder unfollowed Meghan live on air, declared herself a former toxic stan turned toxic hater, and exposed a shocking pattern of betrayal, revealing Meghan Markle's true colors. It wasn't just a relationship breakdown, but a full-blown public execution, and what Stacey revealed has sent shockwaves through Hollywood and royal circles. For years, Stacey defended Meghan when no one else would. She toured the country, showcasing Meghan's face on stage every night, recruited new members to the fan base, created videos, and fought online battles. She was ride or die for the Duchess. In return, Meghan's team reached out to Stacey 5 months ago, promising to send her a PR package from a lifestyle brand. Stacey waited and waited, checking her door like a fool, wondering if the day would ever come. The package never arrived. She was dangled, made to wait, and then completely ignored. But here's where the story takes a truly twisted turn. While Stacey was being ignored and humiliated, Meghan sent the exact same PR boxes to podcasters Claudia and Jackie Oshry, 2 women who have been openly critical of and questioned her actions. Think about that. Critics rewarded and a superfan rejected. Industry insiders are calling it the craziest PR strategy they've ever seen, and rumors are swirling that it was done on purpose. The alleged assumption is that Meghan believes she can control the narrative by showering her haters with gifts, while loyal fans will supposedly stay with her no matter how they're treated. Stacey has disastrously disproven that theory. The fallout is spreading like wildfire. Trump aide Maya Weinman invoked Meghan's name on a major New York Times podcast, coining the term Meghan Markle syndrome to describe the artificial victimhood and culture of grievance among progressives. Conservative commentators have seized on the idea, turning the Duchess into a political punching bag. Meanwhile, Meghan is posting indecipherable calligraphic drivel that critics have savaged as self-absorbed ramblings, desperately trying to hawk a product line that's already been declared dead on arrival. Palace sources claim she's behind every PR disaster, undoing Harry's efforts to reconcile with King Charles III, sabotaging his family relationships because the world will destroy her narrative of victimhood. And now, with Stacey's public defection, the cracks are turning into chasms. Royal insiders are whispering that Meghan's reaction behind closed doors has been unhinged. She's losing political allies, entertainment influencers, and the fans who once blindly defended her. The woman who thought she could manipulate her way to the top is watching it all crumble. And if Stacey's revelations are just the beginning, the truth about Meghan Markle might be far darker than anyone imagined. Let's rewind and unpack just how deep this betrayal really goes. Because Stacey Schroeder wasn't just some casual fan who occasionally liked a post or left a nice comment. This woman was Meghan Markle's loudest, most public, and most devoted defender in the entire entertainment industry. We're talking about someone who repeatedly risked her own reputation, who stood in the line of fire when the world turned against Meghan, who literally made the Duchess a part of her personal identity. The level of devotion was almost cult-like, and Meghan knew it. Stacey traveled the country on tour, and every single night her team set up a giant photo of Meghan Markle's face on the stage. Every single night. Think about that commitment. Think about the planning, the effort, the deliberate choice to make Meghan the centerpiece of her live performances. Stacey wasn't just supporting quietly. She was publicly, loudly, unapologetically Team Meghan when most of Hollywood was running the other direction. She brought people over to her side, convinced skeptics to give Meghan a chance, and used her massive platform to defend against every scandalous situation, every controversy, every accusation. When Meghan was criticized for the Oprah interview, Stacey defended her. When accusations of racism swirled, Stacey stood firm. When royal commentators trashed her behavior, Stacey fought back. She made videos. She commented on posts. She engaged in online debates. She even reached out to her PR team to express support and connect with Meghan's camp. This wasn't lip service. This was genuine, bordering on obsessive fandom. And everyone in entertainment industry circles knew that Stacey was Meghan's ultimate stan. So when Meghan's team reached out 5 months ago and said a PR package was coming her way, Stacey was ecstatic. It felt like validation, like recognition, like she was finally being seen by the people she had so fiercely supported. She told her co-host about it. She looked forward to it. And here's the most heartbreaking part. She woke up every morning wondering if the package would arrive that day. She described how sad and ridiculous her joy was. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Nothing. Meanwhile, she saw other influencers start posting about receiving their packages. People who hadn't defended Meghan. People who hadn't carried her face on a stage. People who had actually criticized her. And then came the final blow. Claudia and Jackie Oshry, the podcasters who had openly questioned Meghan's behavior and motives, received their boxes. Stacey saw it in their Instagram stories. The betrayal was complete. She had been used, manipulated, and discarded, while critics were pandered to. The realization hit like a freight train. And that's when everything changed. The most devoted fan Meghan had ever had was about to become her most vocal enemy, and the Duchess had no one to blame but herself. The PR box scandal becomes even more twisted when you understand exactly who Meghan chose to reward instead of Stacey. Claudia and Jackie Oshry host one of the biggest celebrity gossip podcasts in America, The Daily Toast. And they have never been shy about questioning Meghan's motives, analyzing her behavior, and pointing out inconsistencies in her public narrative. These aren't fans. These are commentators who have openly wondered if Meghan is a manipulator, whether her victim narrative holds water, and whether she's been truthful about the drama with the royal family. And yet, they received the PR boxes that Stacey was promised. Royal watchers are utterly baffled by this strategy. Insiders allege that Meghan believes she can neutralize critics by showering them with attention and gifts, essentially buying their silence or softening their coverage. It's the ultimate display of control-seeking, an attempt to manipulate the narrative by turning haters into allies, while assuming that devoted fans will remain loyal no matter how they're treated. But the strategy reveals something deeply troubling about Meghan's psychology. She doesn't value genuine support. She only values leverage and control. When Stacey discovered that Claudia and Jackie had received their packages, she didn't just feel hurt, she felt humiliated. On the podcast, she described the moment as a punch to the gut, a revelation that everything she thought about Meghan was a lie. Her co-host pointed out the obvious. Stacey was literally Meghan's most visible advocate, and yet the critics received preferential treatment. The message was unmistakable. Loyalty means absolutely nothing to Meghan Markle. Only strategic value matters. Stacey's reaction was volcanic. She unfollowed Meghan live on the podcast during the recording, announcing to thousands of listeners that she was done, over, never speaking about her again. She branded herself a toxic fan turned toxic hater, and the internet exploded. Comments poured in from other former supporters who had experienced similar treatment, people who had defended Meghan only to be ignored, neglected, or completely dismissed. A pattern was emerging, and it wasn't pretty. Meghan apparently has a history of using people and then discarding them once they are no longer useful. But here's where the speculation gets really interesting. Some royal commentators believe that Meghan intentionally avoids rewarding loyal fans because she doesn't want to be associated with anyone who might be a liability. Stacey was caught up in a cancel culture scandal in 2020. Nothing major, but enough to make her radioactive in certain circles. Insiders whisper that Meghan refuses to publicly associate with anyone who has been embroiled in controversy, even minor ones, because she is obsessed with controlling her image and protecting her brand. The irony is staggering. Meghan herself has been cancelled for lying about racism in the royal family, for slandering Kate Middleton and King Charles III, for using false narratives of victimhood. Yet she won't touch anyone who has been even remotely controversial. So Stacey was dumped, while the critics were pandered to. The fans who sacrificed their reputations defending Meghan got nothing, and now the entire entertainment industry is watching as her most devoted supporter publicly declares war. Industry sources say that Meghan is panicking behind closed doors, realizing too late that her twisted PR strategy has backfired in the most spectacular fashion. As if the Meghan Markle dumpster fire couldn't get any worse, the political world has decided to join the party. Maya Weinman, a rising star in the Trump administration and a top aide to Stephen Miller, delivered an absolutely devastating blow by appearing on a major New York Times podcast. She didn't just criticize Meghan, she turned her into a diagnosis, coining the term Meghan Markle syndrome to describe the toxic culture of artificial victimhood that is supposedly destroying Western civilization. And that phrase is spreading like wildfire among conservative circles, turning the Duchess into a cautionary tale and a political punching bag. Weinman's comments were brutal and completely unprovoked. She was discussing the broader culture of grievance and victimhood being promoted by universities and progressive movements, and out of nowhere, she invoked Meghan's name as a prime example. She described it as a glorification of victimhood, where the highest status you can achieve is to be oppressed, even if you have to create the oppression yourself. According to Weinman, Meghan Markle embodies everything that is wrong with modern, progressive culture. A woman who has lived one of the most privileged lives imaginable, but has somehow convinced herself and others that she is a victim. The concept of Meghan Markle syndrome is resonating deeply with political commentators who have been watching the Duchess's trajectory with increasing skepticism. They point to her incredibly privileged upbringing in California, her successful acting career, her fairy tale marriage into one of the most famous families in the world, and then her decision to manufacture trauma and accuse racism in order to fuel her victim narrative. Royal insiders have long suspected that Meghan was fabricating or exaggerating claims of discrimination in order to garner sympathy and gain leverage, and now those suspicions are being validated on the political stage. What makes Weinman's comments so cutting is that she positions Meghan as a symbol of a much larger cultural problem. She's not just criticizing one person, she's diagnosing an entire generation that has learned to seek victimhood as a pathway to power and status. From college students demanding therapy after election results they didn't like, to celebrities claiming oppression while living in mansions, Weinman argues that Meghan Markle is the poster child for this toxic mindset. And the phrase Meghan Markle syndrome is catching on because it perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of people with extraordinary privileges presenting themselves as victims. Palace sources claim that Meghan is absolutely furious about this political turn. She's used to battling the tabloids and royal commentators, but when a powerful Trump administration official uses her name as shorthand for everything that is wrong with progressive victimhood culture, it's a whole new level of public humiliation. Conservative media outlets are seizing on the story, amplifying the phrase, turning Meghan into a punchline in political debates. Royal watchers speculate that this could have long-term consequences for Meghan's brand, particularly in America, where political polarization means alienating half the country. The irony is almost perfect. Meghan has spent years cultivating an image as a champion of social justice and progressive ideals, and now the right-wing political has weaponized her name to attack those very movements. She's become an example of what not to be, a cautionary tale about manufactured trauma, and no PR strategy is going to undo that kind of damage. Now here's where the Stacey situation reveals an even darker layer to Meghan's character. Royal commentators believe they've figured out why Meghan completely ignored her most loyal fan, and it has to do with cancel culture and Meghan's pathological need to protect her image at all costs. Stacey Schroeder was caught up in a scandal in 2020 during the height of the social justice movement. Accusations and backlash that led to her temporary suspension from her "Here is the English translation of the provided text" reality show. Nothing on the scale of what Meghan herself faced, but enough to make Stacey radioactive in certain progressive circles. Insiders whisper that Meghan refuses to publicly associate with anyone who's been embroiled in scandal, no matter how minor or how long ago. She fears guilt by association, paranoid that any connection to controversial figures will damage her carefully curated image as a social justice warrior and champion of progressive causes. Thus, despite years of unwavering loyalty, despite Stacey defending her when the whole world was attacking, Meghan has made a cold, calculated decision to cut her loose. The woman was no longer useful. More than that, she'd become a potential liability. The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Meghan Markle herself has been cancelled on a scale that dwarfs anything Stacey has experienced. She's been accused of lying about racism within the royal family, of defaming Kate Middleton with false bullying accusations, of weaponizing mental health claims for sympathy, and of manipulating the media to destroy her husband's relationship with his own family. Royal commentators, Hollywood insiders, and now political figures use her name as a cautionary tale of manufactured victimhood and toxic behavior. Yet somehow, in Meghan's twisted worldview, she's the one who can't afford to be seen with anyone controversial. Royal watchers point to a disturbing pattern of behavior. Meghan has a history of jettisoning people as soon as they become inconvenient or potentially damaging to her brand. She famously turned her back on her own father after his staged paparazzi photos. Despite him allegedly helping to finance her education and early career, she distanced herself from longtime friends who didn't fit her narrative. She reportedly sowed discord between Harry and his closest confidants, and now she's completely ghosting fans who defended her through everything, but had the audacity to encounter their own scandals. What makes this even more perverse is that Meghan simultaneously flirts with those who actively criticize her. She sends PR boxes to podcasters who question her motives, but ignores supporters who faced cancel culture backlash. Industry insiders suggest this reveals a deeply manipulative personality, someone who values relationships only based on strategic influence and control. Sincere loyalty means nothing. Only utility matters. And the moment you become a potential liability or lose your strategic value, you're discarded without hesitation. Stacey is finally seeing what so many others have discovered too late. Meghan Markle doesn't have friends or supporters. She has tools and assets. And when those assets depreciate or become inconvenient, they're tossed aside like yesterday's garbage. The realization is devastating, but it's also freeing. Stacey is done being used, and she's making sure the world knows who Meghan really is. While the Stacey drama exploded on social media and the political world coined Meghan Markle syndrome, the Duchess decided it was the perfect moment to promote her failing lifestyle brand with a completely bizarre social media stunt. Royal watchers are calling it tone-deaf at best and desperately unhinged at worst. Meghan posted a photo featuring her illegible calligraphy and a cryptic message about birds and bees, which left followers confused, annoyed, and questioning her mental state. Critics immediately slammed the post, calling it a perfect window into her soul, a swirling mess of vanity and pretension masquerading as elegance. The calligraphy itself has become a source of ridicule in royal commentator circles. One observer described it as handwriting that reaches for the sky, as though it's auditioning for a royal decree, with unnecessary flourishes and exaggerated loops that scream, "Look at me," instead of conveying actual words. The Royal News Network noted that if Meghan is going to keep trying to make cursive happen for her brand, she should probably make it legible to a generation that wasn't taught cursive. But legibility clearly doesn't matter. It's about the performance, about projecting an elevated status that exists only in Meghan's fantasy world. Royal insiders say the calligraphy obsession reveals something deeply troubling about Meghan's psychology. She's always seen herself as existing on a higher plane than everyone else, living in a world where she's refined, cultured, and sophisticated beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. The calligraphy is the writing equivalent of wearing a tiara to the grocery store. All show and no substance, revealing a personality more concerned with performative refinement than genuine communication. No sane person writes like that in everyday life. But Meghan doesn't operate in reality. The post referenced the 1965 song The Birds and the Bees, and the caption completed the phrase, "and the little thing called love." Royal commentators are baffled by what it's supposed to mean or promote. Is she selling something? Is it a metaphor? Is she just posting random nostalgic references to seem relatable? No one knows, and that's the problem. Her brand strategy is as illegible as her handwriting, a confused mess of vague concepts and performative elegance that resonates with no one. But here's what makes this truly desperate. Meghan posted this calligraphic nonsense during one of the worst news cycles she's faced in months. Stacey just publicly eviscerated her. A Trump aide turned her name into a political diagnosis. Her efforts at royal reconciliation have failed disastrously, and her response is to post illegible cursive about birds and bees. Industry insiders say this reveals someone completely detached from reality. Someone who genuinely believes her lifestyle brand can be successful despite universal derision and a complete lack of consumer interest. Royal sources confirm what everyone already knows. The brand is dead as a doornail. No amount of pretentious calligraphy or nostalgic song references will change that, but Meghan keeps insisting, keeps performing, keeps pretending she's building an empire while the whole world watches her fail in real time, and the illegible handwriting is the perfect metaphor for everything Meghan Markle embodies. Impossible to read, impossible to understand, and ultimately meaningless. The desperation hasn't stopped at illegible calligraphy. Meghan also decided to showcase her Montecito living room in what royal commentators are calling a transparent and, frankly, pathetic attempt to hawk her dead-on-arrival product line. The timing couldn't be worse. Her husband is experiencing some of the lowest moments of his life, watching his relationships with his father and brother disintegrate in real time, and Meghan's response is to use that pain as a marketing opportunity. Industry insiders say this reveals everything you need to know about who she really is. The living room photo was obviously staged to look effortless and aspirational, the type of content influencers post to sell a dream. But royal watchers immediately saw through it. It wasn't about sharing her life authentically. It was about monetizing Harry's family trauma, about leveraging a stream of negative headlines to sell products no one wants to buy. The strategy is cynical beyond belief, and commentators are calling her out on it. You don't use your husband's pain to hawk overpriced lifestyle goods unless you're completely devoid of empathy or moral boundaries. Palace sources confirm the brand has been a catastrophic failure from the start. Despite the royal connection, despite the name recognition, despite the media attention, consumers simply aren't interested. The products feel detached from reality, the aspirational content for a demographic that doesn't exist. Who exactly is the target audience for Meghan Markle's lifestyle empire? Not the working-class people she claims to help, not the progressive activists she tries to align herself with, and not even the wealthy elites who see through her performative sincerity. The brand exists in a vacuum, supported by no one but Meghan's own delusion. Royal commentators have been saying for months that the lifestyle venture was doomed because Meghan fundamentally misunderstands what people want from her. They don't want calligraphy and carefully curated living room photos. They don't want vague aspirational content about birds and bees. If anything, people are hate-watching at this point, tuning in to see the next disaster, not genuinely engaging with her content. And Meghan seems completely oblivious to this reality, posting as though she's building a thriving empire while the whole world watches her crash and burn. What makes this even more disturbing is that Meghan is willing to use the most painful moments of Harry's life as content opportunities. His fractured relationship with King Charles III, the public humiliation of failed reconciliation attempts, the ongoing feud with Prince William. Nothing is off limits if it might bring attention to her brand. Royal insiders describe it as exploitative, manipulative, and deeply disturbing. But Meghan keeps moving forward, keeps posting, keeps performing, completely detached from the fact that no one is buying what she's selling. The brand is dead, but she refuses to admit it. Behind all the public drama with Stacey and the political attacks, an even darker story is unfolding inside the Sussex household. Palace sources are revealing explosive details about how Meghan allegedly sabotaged Harry's attempts at reconciliation with King Charles III, and the picture they paint is absolutely chilling. According to insiders, Harry's meeting with his father earlier this year could have been a turning point, a chance to rebuild bridges and repair years of damage. Instead, Meghan reportedly orchestrated a PR disaster that destroyed any hope of peace and left Charles more wary than ever. Here's what reportedly happened. Harry met with King Charles III in what palace insiders described as a cold, formal encounter. Charles was nervous, carefully measuring his words, afraid that any personal information would be leaked to the media. And he had good reason to be afraid, because immediately after the meeting, a suspiciously detailed story appeared in US Weekly, painting a completely different picture. The article claimed the reunion was emotional, tearful, full of hugs and reconciliation. It was pure Hollywood fantasy, and royal commentators immediately knew where it came from. US Weekly has become Meghan's preferred outlet for planting stories. A former editor of People magazine lost his job and took a position at US Weekly, where he is alleged to have brought his relationship with the Sussexes. Meghan now has two major tabloids fighting for her exclusives, and she plays them against each other. When that US Weekly article came out, with its fictional narrative of an emotional reunion, palace sources knew exactly who was behind it. The leak had Meghan's fingerprints all over it, but Harry couldn't let it lie. Instead of allowing the competing narratives to balance each other out, he released a shocking Saturday night statement, accusing palace staff, the men in grey suits, of being out to get him. He went down the dark road of conspiracy mongering, suggesting that the royal family might want him dead. The same paranoid thinking that has characterized so much of his recent behavior. And according to royal insiders, Meghan was right there with him, co-authoring the statement, fueling his paranoia, pushing him to launch the scathing attacks. The damage was immediate and catastrophic. King Charles III felt betrayed all over again. Prince William was reportedly furious, and any progress that might have been made at that initial meeting evaporated instantly. Palace sources say Charles is now more guarded than ever, convinced that anything he says to Harry will be twisted, leaked, and weaponized. Reconciliation is dead, and insiders are pointing the finger squarely at Meghan. They believe she deliberately sabotaged the peace talks because reconciliation threatens everything she's built. Her entire narrative, her victim brand, her control over Harry, it all crumbles if Harry rebuilds his relationship with the royal family. Royal insiders are going even further with their speculations, and what they're suggesting is absolutely explosive. Several sources close to the palace believe that Meghan is intentionally and systematically destroying Harry's family relationships because reconciliation would be a disaster for her. Think about it. Her entire brand, her entire public identity, is built on the premise that she is the victim of a racist, cold, uncaring royal institution. If Harry reconciles with his family, if the world sees him laughing with William or embracing Charles, the entire victim narrative collapses instantly. She loses her leverage, her sympathy, her justification for every failed venture and public misstep. Royal commentators are pointing to a disturbing pattern of behavior. Every time Harry gets close to reconciling with his family, something mysteriously derails it. A leaked story appears. A scathing statement is released. Old wounds are reopened with perfectly timed revelations. And Meghan is always there, behind the scenes, whispering in Harry's ear, co-authoring the statements, fueling the paranoia. One royal source described it as sadistic, watching someone deliberately sabotage their spouse's most important relationships for personal gain. Another called it psychological warfare, a calculated campaign to isolate Harry from anyone who might distract him from her influence. The most chilling thing is that Harry seems completely blind to what's happening. Royal insiders say he genuinely believes he's fighting for justice, standing up to institutional corruption, protecting his wife from the same forces that allegedly killed his mother. But behind closed doors, sources claim Meghan is the puppet master, pulling all the strings, manipulating his trauma, exploiting his grief, weaponizing his pain against his own family, and Harry is too lost in the fog to see it. One commentator described him as a P psychologically trapped, unable to realize that the person he is defending is the same person who is destroying him. Royal observers say this must be having a huge impact on Harry's mental health. He is estranged from his father, brother, and extended family. He is isolated in California without real friends or a support system outside of Meghan's circle. He is watching his reputation crumble, his credibility evaporate, his legacy as a beloved prince turn into a cautionary tale of manipulation and poor judgment. And through it all, Meghan is there, the only constant in his life, reinforcing the narrative that everyone else is the enemy. It's a classic isolation tactic, and insiders say it's working perfectly. The saddest part is that even people who have lost sympathy for Harry recognize that he is being controlled. They see a man who desperately wants to rebuild relationships with his family, but is constantly being sabotaged by the woman he shares a bed with. Royal sources describe it as a tragedy, watching someone dig their own grave while the person he loves hands him the shovel, and Meghan shows no signs of loosening her grip. The walls are closing in on all sides, and Meghan Markle is quickly running out of allies. Stassi's public defection is not just celebrity gossip. It is a signal that even the most dedicated fans have reached their limit. When your biggest supporter, the person who literally toured the country with your face on stage every night, publicly unfollows you and declares herself a toxic hater, that's not a PR setback. It's a full-blown crisis, and industry insiders say there will be more defections. Influencers, advocates, people who took risks for her when everyone else was attacking. They are all watching and wondering if their necks will be next. The political pilfering is even more devastating because it has long-term implications. Maya Weinman didn't just criticize Meghan. She turned her into a diagnosis, a shorthand for an entire cultural problem. Meghan Markle syndrome is spreading through conservative media like wildfire, appearing in political debates, opinion columns, and social media discussions about victimhood culture. This kind of branding is permanent. Decades from now, people will refer to Meghan Markle syndrome without even remembering the specific scandals. She has become a cautionary tale, a joke, a symbol of everything people hate about artificial victimhood, and no PR strategy can fix that level of cultural damage. Meanwhile, her lifestyle brand remains dead on arrival, despite increasingly desperate attempts to generate interest. Calligraphic posts are ridiculed, living room photos are ignored. Product launches only attract headlines because people enjoy watching a real-time train wreck unfold. Royal commentators say the brand was doomed from the start because Meghan fundamentally misunderstood her own appeal. People were interested in her when she was a glamorous princess married to a beloved prince. They are not interested in aspirational lifestyle content from a woman widely regarded as manipulative, dishonest, and self-centered. Royal sources say Meghan's reaction behind closed doors has been volcanic. She reportedly cannot understand why her strategies are failing so disastrously. She thought flirting with critics while ignoring fans would help control the narrative. Instead, it exposed her as calculating and ungrateful. She thought creating a victim narrative would generate sympathy. Instead, she has become a political punching bag. She thought sabotaging Harry's reconciliation would protect her brand. Instead, it is destroying whatever credibility she had left. Every move she makes digs the hole deeper, and insiders say she is panicking. The question now is how much lower can she fall before something breaks completely? Will other celebrities follow Stasi's lead and publicly disown her? Will political figures continue to use her name as a weapon? Will Harry finally wake up and see what everyone else sees? Royal observers are watching closely because a collapse seems inevitable. Meghan Markle built her empire on lies, manipulation, and manufactured trauma. And now, as the truth comes out piece by piece, that empire is crumbling. The Duchess of Sussex's lifestyle show released on Netflix revealed not only the gastronomic preferences and housekeeping style of the star, but also her beauty tastes. Particularly attentive fans of Markle noticed after the first episode of the show that the vibe of a measured and quiet life in Montecito, where she, Harry, and their children moved from LA away from the omnipresent paparazzi, strikingly coincides with her appearance. Thus, the Duchess's wardrobe abounds in pastel and calm tones, not giving way to a riot of colors, and her manicure is the embodiment of life near a deserted Southern California beach in a small town. In photographs where Meghan neatly holds a cake or tucks her hair behind her ears, short, milky pink, almond-shaped nails are visible. Read also, Bambi Manicure is the trendiest nail design for spring 2025. Beauty experts have already found out which shades the fashionista Duchess chose to achieve a manicure in the style of old money, simple, cute, and unobtrusive. In fact, Sussex's stylists used varnish in 2 shades, romantique and satin slippers, so that ultimately a brilliant pink and white manicure came out, universal and charming in its own way. Read also, 5 beauty habits of Meghan Markle and 10 of her favorite products. Given the scenes with the sea breeze on the beach, whitewashed kitchens, and Meghan's always chic neutral outfits, it is quite logical that she complements her look with a milky white manicure. According to experts, it is enough to apply a layer of varnish of each of the 2 shades to make a Montecito manicure. Quiet luxury, as the Duchess of Sussex's manicure has already been dubbed on the web, definitely has every chance of regaining its former popularity, even if you personally have always preferred long, sharp nails with an abundance of rhinestones and colorful shades. A manicure in such a delicate shade will be appropriate for any occasion, and an outfit for it can be found even in the most modest wardrobe.